I'm Lara Young, and I'm really delighted to have you here this morning, bright and early in Australia. I know it's evening in the US and the UK and other places in the Northern Hemisphere where people are joining me from. I'm really excited about sharing this webinar with you. A lot of women come to me in my coaching practice and they're really on the brink of giving up before the going gets good. And I think that's because they perhaps don't have a strategy in place to keep them going, a process to follow that they know that if they complete every step of it will guarantee their success in whatever they're wanting. Some of you will have been on webinars with me before, so welcome back. And for others of you, perhaps you don't know much about me or who I am. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my story and how I came to be doing what I'm doing. And I guess a little bit as well about what success means for me. So I'm Lara, and I'm really passionate about helping people to achieve their potential, both personally and in terms of professionally as well. I've had over 20 years experience as a coach, course designer and facilitator. I worked for many years in the corporate world in Australia, and then I moved over to the UK in 2002, and I spent 13 years there and then returned back to Australia with my two young children. I actually started my own consulting business in 2006. So I was running a business consultancy, which still operates, and also running a coaching and retreats business as well in the UK. And so I was doing NLP training, coach training, and running a lot of things like leadership and talent development programs for large global organisations across the UK, USA, Asia and Europe. And I guess that taught me quite a bit about success, about strategies for success, and about what people can do to guarantee that whatever action they take will create success in their lives and in their businesses. Going the wrong way there, sorry. So as I say, I started my consulting business and retreats business, Design Your Fabulous Future, in 2006. And I quickly realised I was running a lot of retreats and I was running them in Europe and the UK. And as I was doing this, I was hiring houses for a weekend, 3-day weekend typically. And I sort of realised, I was living in London at the time, that the money that I was spending on renting these houses and hiring out locations and venues, I could actually spend in living in one of these places. So I ended up finding a house in Belvoir, opposite Belvoir Castle, and spent some time putting in planning applications and all those things that you need to do, and ended up creating a 5-star guest house. And we just actually won a Bravo Award on TripAdvisor for excellence. And it was great because it enabled me to have a venue to run retreats in, but it also then expanded the business so that we were able to host board meetings there who wanted a bit of a unique setting. Also started running some creative writing and cookery workshops, as well as some fitness boot camps. So it was quite a rounded, business offering there, and it provided a base for some really great things to happen. I also love food and I love cooking. So I started cooking on BBC Radio Leicester. Sounds a bit strange, but it involved a lot of rattling of pans and things like that, and cracking of eggs rather loudly. And so that was a passion of mine too. So cooking and chatting away on the radio was brilliant. And I also got to become a judge in the British Pie Awards, which sounds great, and it was certainly. I made a lot of great friends doing that and a lot of great contacts, although I don't think now that I could eat another pie. Particularly, I think last year I was a chicken and mushroom category. Being in Australia, of course, now I'm not judging this year, so I will miss that. The other thing that I established whilst I was at Vale House and living in the UK was something called Graze the Vale, which started as a 3-day food event. So showcasing local produce and local products from around the Vale of Belvoir. So I was doing a lot, and I guess you can tell from this that I'm quite multi-passionate. Like, I enjoy doing so many different things with my time and with my energy, and ultimately really just working with people through times of change and transition, whether that's in the corporate world or in their own personal life. So I was doing all these amazing things, and I then realised that, I got to a certain age and I didn't have a family, and that was something that I really wanted to do. I'd never seen my life as being, single and childless. I'd always thought of myself as a mother as part of my identity. And so I actually embarked on the adoption process and really put it out there in terms of what I wanted, in terms of becoming a mother, and was really clear about what that meant for me, and applied a lot of the techniques that I'm going to share with you now, actually, to achieve that goal. And it was funny because I was told when I first applied that because of my age and because I was a single parent, I wouldn't get babies and I wouldn't get girls. And what actually happened was that my first daughter came to me when she was 18 months, and my second daughter came to me when she was just 12 weeks old. And it was funny because at the time people said to me, "Oh, be careful what you wish for, having two children under the age of 2 in very quick succession." And I said, "I am." And so, the strategies that I'm going to share with you today are in part about how that was achieved. I'll be sharing some more of that on my blog and also in future webinars, because obviously that's sort of more of it. It also incorporates a lot of law of attraction work, which is what I use in my Your Life, Your Way program as well. So let's just kick off now with the 10 steps for success in life and business. Going backwards again. So my intention for this webinar is to share with you the 10 steps that if you take them, and that is absolutely key, you've got to take action, that will guarantee your success in life and business. So it's really about applying the strategies. So what I've found in my 20 odd years in coaching and managing change is that the strategies that you apply for success in business overlap in terms of being the strategies that you can also apply to have success in your life. There's no real separation of self. So you may be different at work than at home, and it's a really common claim. I'm not like that at work, I'm not like that at home. But the reality is that you're still you, and what works for you in one area will work in another. So if you're someone who has come to this webinar to learn how you can apply these strategies to be more successful in terms of the life that you want to create, that's fantastic. And equally, if you have come because you want to apply these strategies to a business that you're developing, again, that's wonderful. And if you can see throughout this presentation how you can apply them to both, then that's even better. So one thing that I will put in as a caveat before we begin is that you do actually need to take all the 10 steps. So, it's good news that we can apply them, but the not so good news, I guess, is that in order to apply them, you've actually got to take action. And a lot of times that is where people will fall down. So I know you're an action taker, so let's get started. Okay. The key thing here is that there are 10 steps, and there are 10 steps for a reason. I was going to cut them down because 10 sounds a lot. I was thinking maybe I can get them into 7 or 9, and it just sounds a bit better. But there are 10 steps for a reason, and it's really important that you follow all of these steps, okay? And I'm here to let you know that creating success, whether it be designing and living a life of your dreams or building a dream business or getting promoted or whatever success means to you, it's not about shortcuts. It's about following the recipe that works. You wouldn't start baking a cake for your child's birthday party, read the recipe and decide, oh, I think I can forget about the eggs. Sure, the recipe calls for eggs, and it's pretty common wisdom that you need eggs to help make a cake bind and rise. But hey, I'm going to skip that step and still expect a great result. Now, this is exactly like that recipe. you make sure that, please, out of all these 10 steps, and I'll be emailing you your workbook after this webinar, please follow every step of this recipe and of this process. Don't leave anything out. So let's begin. You're going to get a workbook, as I say, and this is something that will be emailed to you after the webinar. And you'll notice that for every single step, there is an activity for you to complete. I've written down some notes about, just to get you thinking about that particular step. And the idea is that you take action by actually writing down and committing it to paper, what you're going to do, what you're going to change, the things that you're going to act upon as a result of participating in this webinar. So, the most common thing that most common step that people miss is creating and pursuing focus goals, and that is step number 1. So we've all heard about goal setting and the importance of it. If you're not familiar with the acronym SMART, it's something that's used quite widely across business and in personal development circles. And that is about creating goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And I've just popped that little graphic up there for you, which includes the sort of questions that you need to really hone into and get down into the detail of in order to create goals that are SMART, that will provide the focus that you need to achieve what you want to achieve. And as I say, this is the step that most commonly people skip. They think, oh, I know what my goals are, they're in my head, I know what I want to achieve. You know, I can't really be bothered writing them down. And there was a Harvard business study that basically showed that if you do commit your goals to paper, if you write them down, you've got a 95% greater chance of achieving your desired outcomes. And it was really interesting. The Harvard business study found that of Harvard graduates, and they extrapolated this to say, well, it's applicable worldwide, that if 3 to 5% of people write down their goals and articulate them in a really clear way, there also happen to be the 3 to 5% of people who have the most wealth and success, across the globe. So it's really important that you do create that clear vision about what you want. And one of the things that a clear vision is also important for, of course, is for applying the law of attraction when we're looking to achieve something in our lives or in business or generally. And as I say, laws of attraction principles is for another webinar, and certainly for other programs that I run. So I won't dwell on it now, but I do want to make sure that you do follow this step. When you get your workbook, please write down your goals. Bill Copeland says that the trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend all your time running up and down a field and never score. And that really, I think that visually for me is quite impactful, because it's so time wasting. You can be in this, nebulous environment where you're just, I guess it's almost like a headless chicken. You're kind of running around trying to aimlessly, in a sense, not really knowing. And of course, Lewis Carroll's famous quote from Alice in Wonderland, and there's a little picture of Alice for you there, is that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And if you want to live a really purposeful life, then goals are just so important for that. So step 1, please do create and pursue focus goals. Step 2 is take immediate and decisive action. So it's really important that once you've written your goals, you need to start taking action towards them. Writing goals is not about completing the work, patting yourself on the back, grabbing a glass of coffee or a glass of wine and putting your feet up and thinking, that's done now, that's all I had to do. Setting your goals and setting very clear intention is only the first step. And now it becomes about doing one or more things that are going to move you closer to where you want to be. So it may be that you're making a phone call, you're sending an email. If it's that you want to find love in your life, it might be about sitting down and actually creating a dating profile. Or it may be something, simple like clearing clutter or tidying your desk. Now, it's really important that you do take those actions. And I'm going to be running another webinar in a couple of weeks' time called the Action Takers Blueprint, which will really hone in further on some strategies that you can utilize to take action, to motivate yourself to get out of procrastination and really move forward. And one of the key things that is very important when you are obviously wanting to take action towards your goals is having an action planner. And again, that's something that's included with the programs that I run, but there's lots of them available, of course, and downloadable from the internet. A lot of people sell action planners these days. So the key is to find one that works for you and actually use it. The next step is to focus on being productive, not being busy. So by that I mean a lot of times we can get caught up in what I call busy work. You know, it's work that doesn't really go anywhere, that doesn't really achieve the outcome that we're looking to achieve. So the very first thing to start to think about is, what is your outcome? What do you want to achieve within the specific time frame that you might have set yourself? How do you actually segment your time so that you're the most productive at any time of the day that you're actually applying, that you're working? Do you plan your day? There are some fabulous resources out there. I've just got a little picture of one of them that I just pulled down from the internet. But, there are lots of resources. There's day planners, there's alarms. And it's really important that you can sort of chunk your whatever you're looking to do into time frames. So it might be that you say, right, I'm going to use 15 minutes of dedicated space and time to respond to emails. Other blocks might be as long as 50 minutes or a couple of hours, depending on what your outcome is. And only you will know how long certain activities take you. But the key really is to switch off all other distractions. So it's, switching off your mobile phone, dare I say it, not having social media live at that time, not having that ping come through of the emails. Because the idea is that when you're focusing on one activity at a time, you're immersed in it and you're much more likely to be in the zone for that activity. So you're most productive, your quickest self, than if you've got a lot of things and you're multitasking at the one time. If you just think back to school days, I know certainly I always had a timetable at school where we had set periods of time in which we would do English or maths or science or whatever it might be, sports. And you knew that the only thing that happened during that time was that you were focusing on that one topic or that one subject. So that may be a good strategy for you to use, to go back to that. Now, the other key is, so that you alleviate boredom and that you are productive, is that you can switch around the length of time that you're spending. So if you start off work at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, you might say, right, 15 minutes, the first 15 is for me to plan my day. The next 45 will be, I'm going to write a blog post, or I'm going to create a dating profile, or I'm going to spend time at the gym, for example. So whatever you're doing, whether it's life and business, you can actually mark out those times and designate appropriate time for each of those activities. And, it's really important that you are able to do that, not just from a productivity sense, but also from a self-efficacy sense, from the sense that, yes, tick, I've achieved something today and I'm feeling really great about myself. And the interesting thing about productivity, of course, is that the more productive you are, the more productive you are. And it may even be just, like for me, for example, I've got the 2 girls go to nursery 3 days a week. And so I really structure my work time during those days. And I also still have a structure around the 4 days that I do have with them, with various activities and things, so that, our lives have there's a fluidity to them, and there's a joy in them, and there's a purpose in them. But we're always, there's something to do, and that can include, factoring in downtime, time to do nothing as well. And in fact, self-care is very, very important, and we'll get onto that as one of our tips a little later on as well. So the next one is to avoid the perfection trap. Now, this is one of the best reasons for procrastinations procrastination or for not getting things done. It's not perfect, it's not quite ready. It's part of that whole limiting belief system that it must be perfect before I release it. You know, what will people think of me? And it can really hold you back from actually participating, from engaging and from getting things done. So if you want to be successful in life or in business, it's important for you to work out how much is good enough. You know, how much in this context will do. Is it important that it's 100% or is 80% okay? And only you will know that, because you have your own inner compass of how I guess perfect in inverted commas things have to be. But if you do find that those excuses are coming up for you, that it's not quite right, it's not quite ready, it's not good enough, then just be aware of those, because they could really be holding you back from, participating and engaging and getting things done. And they are, as I say, a great procrastination tool. I've coached women, for example, who are really passionate about Italy and they want to go there, and so they start studying Italian language, but then they don't speak up in class, or they might stop going to class because they feel, I haven't done my homework, I'm not up to speed, my accent isn't quite as good as everyone else's. And, it can be quite limiting. So if you are someone who does this, and only you will know, as I say, then just pay attention when it happens and just think to yourself, what could the alternative be, or how much will be good enough? So another thing that can potentially be a barrier to success, or that you need to do in order to be successful, is to get outside of your comfort zone. Because again, it's another procrastination method. You don't want to get out there, you don't want to risk perhaps failure or trying something new. And so you stay where you are because it's pretty comfortable. If you've ever been on a European beach holiday, you'll know that there are sun lounges that you can hire for so many euros, and you'll lie down on the sun lounge and you might have your book with you and maybe a drink, and you'll be relaxing, and the sun will be beating down upon you. And at some point you think, oh, that water, that ocean in front of me just looks so inviting. And so you get up off your sun lounger and you run across the hot sand, because the sand's really hot, and you dip your toe into the water, and invariably it feels cold. So you might run back to your sun lounger and lie down with your book again. But there will become a point where it's so hot that you think, I am going to go in. I'm going to go in and get into the water. So you run back down to the water's edge. And there are two ways people get in the water, aren't there? The first one is they dive straight in. And the second way is that they go in gradually, and the waves rising, and it's cold. And the waves come, and gradually they ease themselves into the water. And invariably, once you're in the water, you think, this is beautiful. It feels fantastic. How wonderful is it to be here in the ocean on my holiday? And the interesting thing is that, that level of enjoyment is only possible when you step outside of your comfort zone and take the action to get into the water in the first place. And the beauty of it is, of course, that now that you're in the water, you're much more likely to get back in the future, because you know how lovely and wonderful it is. So getting out of your comfort zone is key for success, in personal success and in professional success. We need to do things that challenge and stretch us. For example, I'm not a particularly technical person, and in preparation for this webinar, I taught myself how to create a fillable PDF document, which is the workbook that you'll receive in your email. And it was a really proud moment for me. And in fact, in a networking group that I'm in, I shared that moment, and I said, I've done it. And I had people say to me, can you give me some training on it? And I had to sort of say, I said yes, but I had to put the caveat on that I'd be using terminology like that thingy there, that button over there. But once you do get out of your comfort zone, it can open up a whole world of possibilities, like that kind of engagement and conversation. and an opportunity for me to, you know, have a hangout online with some people and show them what I've learnt, which is something I really love, is getting together with people and sharing learning experiences. So one of the things that I have running at the moment as well is the 52 Adventures to Change Your Life program. We actually started in January this year, and it's 52 adventures, a weekly adventure straight to your inbox, designed to help you get out of your comfort zone. And that program will be rerunning starting again in May. So if you are interested in having some prompts and also having a community of other adventurers getting out of their comfort zone, then that's a great one to kind of tap into. But I'll put some details of that on the email for you as well. But anything you can do, even just walk a different route to work, or you know, maybe have a haircut that you haven't had before. There are simple things. Try a new dish that you can do that will help to get you out of your comfort zone. The next thing is to keep things simple. So life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. And Confucius said that, and as we know, he's full of a lot of ancient wisdom. So in keeping things simple, I think that sometimes it's another procrastination tool in a way, because we tend to put things off by over-researching. I just need to know a little bit more about that before I go ahead and do it. Or we might think that we have to invent the wheel, not even reinvent it. We think we have to start from scratch. And one of the key things that successful people do is they actually look at what are other people doing, and they select role models. So people who, you know, whether it's someone who's mastered how to speak Italian, for example, or who's had success on a dating website, or who's built a successful coaching business, or whatever it might be, or left the corporate world and you know, started doing something new, or gone traveling. There are people who invariably will have done already what you want to do. And one of the things that neuro-linguistic programming teaches us, it's NLP for short, is that if we can find a role model or a set of role models who've done the thing and been good at the thing that we would like to do, then one of the quickest and easiest ways to learn that skill or to achieve that for ourselves is to actually role model them. So look at what do they do, what's their behaviour like, how do they communicate, and just pay attention to all the things they're doing and apply and try on some of those strategies for ourselves. It's really important that we notice, if we want to achieve something, what works. And then the simple thing, of course, is that in order to succeed, you do that one thing. Now, there's lots of great free courses out there. I mean, you can Google just about anything these days. And so, for example, if you wanted to learn how to service your own car, you know, there's YouTube videos for that. I don't know where that example came from, but you can actually be successful and learn whatever you want to learn. But it's actually setting the goal, taking the step, getting out of your comfort zone and taking action. Now, the next thing is that we need to measure and track performance so that you're starting to implement some actions. You're doing things. You're moving towards what you want. Now, the ultimate thing here is that you need to use what's called your sensory acuity, which is basically your ability to notice what's showing up for you in your life, what's working and what's not working. So, for example, in the earlier analogy, I mentioned that if you were to bake a cake and leave the eggs out, the result would most likely not be that beautiful birthday cake that there was a picture of. And so it's noticing and paying attention to the fact that you do need eggs to bake that kind of cake. So what feedback and information is available to you? Use that. I know that certainly in business, there's all kinds of different feedback. How many people participate on a webinar, for example? How many people engage in a community? What direct feedback do you get? when you've run an e-course, for example. All that information gives you, it gives you information, doesn't it, about your performance, so that you can start to notice what is and isn't working. In terms of your own personal life, you'll notice what's working. Let's go back to the dating example. It may be that you're not getting many dates, or that you are going on one date and not having a follow-up date. That's all information. That's feedback. And so that gives you the opportunity to change things, do something different, rather than keeping going on the path. And so many times I see people persisting and persisting and persisting. And persistence, don't get me wrong, persistence is great, but they persist in the wrong direction. So they keep doing things that aren't working, and keep doing things that aren't working, and keep doing this. I'm just not trying hard enough. I must go. I must keep going. I must keep going. It doesn't work. And that energy around that, you could just feel it, I guess, when I was describing it to you, that, the energy around, I'm doing this, is not working, and you keep doing it. It's quite soul destroying. So it's really important that you have the ability and the flexibility to, if something's not working, do something different. And it's an iterative process that keeps going. Check off your milestones on your, action planning sheet. Are you achieving things in the timeframes that you want to? Are you using those feedback mechanisms? It could be, for example, if you're looking to do diet and exercise, you've got very tangible and very clear measures of performance. It may be that you want to be a certain dress size, or see a certain number on the scales, or run a half marathon. Whatever you're doing in life ever, there's always some kind of measure for it. It may just be the response that you get from other people, in terms of, am I communicating effectively? Am I building good, solid, strong relationships in my life? So very, very important to pay attention to what is going on. And, if the feedback isn't necessarily what you'd like, please do make the changes necessary, and you'll be surprised at the different results that you get. And this leads us on to the next point, which is make some small and continuous improvements. So you notice things aren't working, make a change, tweak it, pay attention to the results you're getting, and then tweak it again. It's relatively simple. If you And maybe the first thing you try won't work, but it's about having that flexibility to recognise that things maybe aren't working, and that you do need to make some changes, and you can tweak it. And that's the beauty of it, and if you pay attention to the things that do work in various areas of your life, try applying those. If things are working in business, apply them in your personal life. If things are working in your personal life, apply them in business. It's really important that you see the progress that you're making. Little hacks will really improve your life. And also it's interesting, and you get out of your comfort zone when you start to explore new ways of doing things. And that's what making continuous improvement really is all about. So the next thing is to think positive thoughts and spend time with positive people. Now, the number of times that I coach people, or people are on my programs, and they have this really unfortunate, self-sabotaging, negative way of talking to themselves. And if they talk to themselves if they talk to other people the way they talk to themselves, they'd be surprised, they'd be astounded sometimes at how negative they are, and how that little voice inside their head, and we all have one, it's probably saying, I don't, in your head right now. But that little voice that will pull us up, or be our little inner, some people call it the inner critic. It's really important to pay attention to the thoughts that you have. Are they serving you well? Are they positive? Now, these thoughts can be called positive affirmations. I love Louise Hay. She's brilliant. And, I think she's my affirmation guru, if you like. And I love the way that she relates the use of language, which is the linguistics, obviously, in neuro-linguistic programming, to, our ability to create positive emotion, positive feeling. And, so often we spend time thinking thoughts that don't feel good. And as long as we're not feeling good, we're not attracting good things to us. We know that from the principles of law of attraction. And so if you can create some positive thought patterns around success, around achieving what you want to in life, that go with the goals that you set for yourself, it just makes it so much more powerful. And what I often find is that people can struggle with this because they may say to themselves, I'm lucky and successful and my dreams will come true. But then there's an inner critic that says, no, they won't. What are you talking about? So there's a little softener, which is really brilliant, which is, won't it be great when I'm successful and my dreams come true? Because the natural response to that is, well, yes, it will be great. And you're less inclined then to put the negative spin on it. Won't it be great when I'm a size 12 and wearing that amazing black dress at the Christmas party? Well, yes, it will. And so any sort of languaging that you can get around affirming for yourself positively what you want to achieve, is great. And some people write them up and put them in the bathroom window. Some people put them in their diary, or just even as a little reminder on your phone. Now, the other thing about this is that positive thoughts are one thing, and that's fabulous, because that's one side of the equation. But you also need to, in order to bring about success in life and business, you need to spend time with people who are uplifting you, inspiring you, who you feel have that positive energy. It really saddens me when I hear that people don't share with friends and family what they're doing in business, or they don't share that they are perhaps looking for love, looking for a partner, or they don't feel comfortable expressing the fact that they're unhappy in their job and they want to go and start their own business. And the reason that people perhaps don't share those things is because they feel as though if they do, then there will be some kind of criticism, or someone will put them down or make a comment that may be well-intentioned but brings them down emotionally, makes them feel less comfortable and less happy about what they're looking to achieve. When I was, it was really interesting, because when I was first starting the adoption process, one of my auntie's reaction was really quite an interesting one, and it was very much from her model of the world, because I said to her, Auntie, I'm got some really exciting news. I've always wanted to be a mother. I'm starting the adoption process. And her reaction and her response to that was, you'll never meet a man if you've got young children. And it was really, I was quite perplexed by it, because I hadn't sort of ever talked about meeting a partner, or that was a priority to me. I'd really clearly articulated my priority was becoming a mother. And it was really interesting that she was coming from a completely different place from where I was coming from. Not a wrong place, it's her place. And, it was a concern, of course. I think she, wanted to see me, happily married or happily partnered up. And that's, it's lovely for her to want that to me, but it was a really interesting reaction. And so I think that one of the keys to this as well is actually identifying people perhaps in your life at the moment who don't bring that level of positivity or contribute those good feelings, and perhaps start, if you can, spending a little less time with them, or putting on what I call the suit of armour when you do, because just even having that awareness can make a real difference. So it's almost like bracing yourself for the possibility of a bit more negativity, and make sure that you then go and do something really positive and uplifting. The other thing is that it's important as well to find a community of people who are like-minded, who will provide you with positivity, who will help you to feel uplifted and positive, and that you can do anything. I've got a group. I'll share it with you in a moment. It's a Facebook group. It's free to join. It's the Life Design Mastermind, it's called. And that's all about sharing steps and tips for creating amazing lives and businesses. And so obviously you're most welcome to join in there if you haven't already. But, you know, it's really important that we find people who are like-minded, who we do feel comfortable sharing our successes and our wins. And, you know, also talking about the things that maybe aren't going well, but in a positive frame, so that we're solution-based, we're looking for solutions. You know, and if you are your own worst enemy, and a lot of people come to me recognizing this, that they are their own barrier to success, the way that they think and talk to themselves really prevents them. It's a limiting belief or a block there. You know, sometimes it is you, or it is, you know, it is the individual who's doing that, not thinking positively or acting positively. And, you know, being part of a positive community can really help. Things like coaching can help. Being part of a, you know, positive forward-looking program like Your Life Your Way, or being part of the Adventurers community. It's, you know, finding things that will help you to think more positively, and therefore, I guess, attract positivity and positive experiences into your life. So the final one is about maintaining balance. So one of the things that I get most commonly asked is, what sort of propelled you to move from the corporate world and into running your own business? What was the catalyst? And I was working at the time I was the global head of international HR for a company. And I was based in London, and the CEO was based in the US. And, you know, I was one of those people who was very much, I love what I did working. At work, I was really professional. I was engaged. I felt that I was making a great contribution. All of those wonderful things. And I was one of these people who had, you know, a BlackBerry and like a work phone and a personal phone, and wherever I go, I'd have both with me. And I was out for a friend's birthday one Saturday night, and the phone rang, my work mobile rang, and it was 10:30. And it was my boss, the CEO in the US, and it was Saturday. So bearing in mind, it would have been Saturday his time as well. And, you know, I actually didn't answer that phone call. My friends were looking around me at the table thinking, what are you doing? It's Saturday. Your phone's ringing. It's a work call. You know, what's going on? And on the Monday, he rang me and he said, I'm just wondering why you didn't answer your phone on Saturday night when I called you. And my response was, you've answered your own question. It was Saturday night. And it really made me think about what I was doing. And then the other catalyst was that the person who I had joined the organisation to work with as a mentor, who basically had the similar role to me, but looking after more the US side of the business, I joined that organisation because I really respected him, and I was at a point in my career where I wanted to work with someone who I could learn from. And he announced that he was leaving the organisation, and that, to me, those two things in tandem were a real catalyst. I was working a lot of hours, I was doing a lot of things, and somewhere in there was, you know, it for me felt balanced out, because I was learning so much and I was really engaged and enjoying working on interesting projects with this other person. And when he announced that he was leaving, the whole sort of, you know, for me it was like a veil was lifted from my eyes, and I was thinking, actually, time to take pause. What am I really passionate about? And so I had 3 months that I had to work out so I gave my notice, and I had 3 months to work that out. And it was really interesting, because during that time I realised and identified, set some goals about what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about, essentially helping people to realise their potential. You know, I really loved the the personal development side of things, so coaching. So that naturally led me to be running retreats, and then I really loved consulting as well, so creating learning experiences, designing leadership programs, etc. And so I actually built a business that had two different arms. And as I said at the outset, I'm a multi-passionate person, so I was doing lots of different things, and I really enjoy that. But I think amongst all of that as well is the recognition that when you are someone who likes doing a lot of things, you do need to take time to be mindful, to practice mindfulness, to slow down, to have time for yourself. And there's a common term at the moment which is called self-care. And it's almost as though for those of you who, and I know there are a lot of you on the call who, have that hectic pace. There's a lot going on socially. There's a lot going on from a business perspective. It's really important to use some of these strategies around thinking, how can I have downtime? How can I build that into my daily routine so that I am practicing some level of self-care and living in the moment? Because those moments, especially now that I've had children, those moments, they just go by in such a heartbeat. It's really important that you do take some time when you're thinking about what you want in life to include some time for you. And again, there are lots of great resources on the internet around self-care, some fantastic free resources about that as well. So they are my top 10 tips for success in life and business. There are some great things for you to be a part of that I've got coming up. I've got a couple of webinars coming up. Next week, I'm running one on removing the barriers to success. So we've talked about some steps that you can take to guarantee your success in life and business. And as part of those, we also identify that there are some barriers to success as well. And a lot of those barriers come down to you, the person in the mirror. And so in the next webinar, I'll be taking you through what some of these barriers are, and then some very quick and easy strategies for removing those. The following week, on the 29th, I think it is, I will be running an Action Takers Blueprint webinar. So for those of you that are absolutely ready to take action, you know what you want to do, or maybe you'll take the time to have a look at the Clarity webinar that I ran so that you'll have more clarity about what you want to do and you'll have set some goals. I'm going to take you through some amazing strategies for keeping motivated and taking action. I've got a course that's coming up which is both a live program, a retreat, and also an e-course. It's called Build Your Backbone Sister, and it's a program that I have run live to over 2,000 people now. And it is all about resilience. It's all about, as the name suggests, building a backbone. So what are the things that you need to do? Once you know what you want to do, how do you stay on track? How do you keep going? How do you make sure that any obstacles and hurdles are easily surmountable? You can leap over them. So the program is, I'm just taking expressions of interest at the moment. So if you go onto the website, you can just register there for an email when enrolment's open. They won't be opening for a couple of weeks yet. And the program starts at the end of May. It's 6 weeks in duration. It's got lots of live elements with me. There's a group community as well. There's some one-on-one coaching included in that as well. Just to have that personal focus and attention, as well as some group elements. And then the live retreat, again, that's at the end of May. And if you are in Australia or travelling to Australia, it's going to be on the central coast of New South Wales. And that's a real jam-packed couple of days where we just work through a whole range of activities, individual activities, group activities, and you get a massage with that as well, which is brilliant for self-care. And Build Your Backbone is all about helping you to stop settling for silver when gold is within your reach. It's all about, it's the whole don't give up and what you can do when you're close to thinking, I'm going to throw in the towel. So I'm really excited and passionate about that program. The next thing that you can do is join the free Life Design Mastermind over on Facebook. If you go to the Design Your Fabulous Future page, you can jump in there. I'll also send links to all of these things through on the email with your workbook. And I'll also send you a resource links email as well. So just some things that I've discovered that perhaps can help you, tips and techniques and things like that. So thank you very much for your participation today. I'll just see, has anyone got any questions at the moment? Yeah, so we've got a question from Mary there. Mary's asking, what do you recommend in terms of breaking up your day? So, Mary, I think one thing to pay attention to is how you feel yourself during the day. We all have times when we are in ebb and flow. There are days when there are some of us who are real morning people and some who come alive in the afternoon, and some of us who prefer to work through the evening into the wee small hours. So I think step one is really identifying when you're most productive in terms of energetically, because that makes a big difference as to when you're going to slot certain tasks in. So for me, for example, I am very much an early riser and I'm an early bird. I'm very productive in the morning, and I tend to have what I call an after school slump at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I will tend to do my planning for the next day. I do in the evening, just as I'm wrapping up working, and then I will tackle my emails very first thing, roundabout for 20 minutes, half an hour. So I'll return any phone calls and do emails and have a coffee at that time. And then I normally get into quite big chunks of work. So it might be writing blog posts, creating course material. It might be obviously having coaching sessions. They tend to be in the morning, mainly because I'm in Australia and a lot of the people that I coach and work with are in the US and the UK. So time differences there as well. And then I like to just have, those long sessions. And then when I get to around that 3 o'clock, I pepper it with 15-minute, 20-minute bursts of activity where I know that I can focus. Then I can get up and have a walk around. Working from home, I can go and put some washing on or, phone a friend or what have you, so that I'm really breaking it up that way. I think the key is to know your own rhythm and just to make sure that you are, working to a pattern that really suits you. And just writing down on a day planner what you're going to do when and really sticking to it as though it's a meeting that you've got, can be very, very useful and really important. So someone else wants to know a bit more about getting out of the comfort zone. Who's that? Sorry, I can't quite. So Catherine, is it Catherine, wants to know about getting out of your comfort zone and some tips for that. Catherine, I think one of the key things that I find is that we often very much stick to what we know, and that's about being in our comfort zone, isn't it? I'll tell a story of when I was young. I used to go shopping with my mum, and she'd pull these clothes off the rack, and I'd be like, oh, God, I'm not trying that on. And I would try it on, and invariably it looked great. She just had the eye for that kind of thing. And I guess that's, in a way, what getting out of your comfort zone is about. It's about recognising that even though at first glance something may not be necessarily that appealing to you, that you only truly know whether you like something or not when you try it on, when you try on the experience. There are a lot of things that you can do in terms of getting over the fear of trying something new. And one of the most common strategies is to actually imagine that you've already completed that activity or that event. So, for example, if you're afraid of heights and you're doing a bungee jump, but you really want to do it, so no one's pressuring you into it, you want to try it, but you're just really scared of it, is to imagine how great it'll feel after you've done it. So when you're either dangling at the end of that rope, filled with elation, or you're looking at the photographs afterwards, pick a point in time where you've successfully completed the activity and it feels good, and you look back on it and that fear isn't there anymore. There are lots of great techniques that you can use for that. And I'll share some of those actually, because I think that's a really good point you raised. There are a lot of things that you can do yourself to get out of your comfort zone and get over that barrier. So I'll include some of those things in the Removing Your Barriers to Success webinar, and pop some things up as well over in the Life Design Mastermind too. Okay, so the next question comes from Wendy. And Wendy says the dating example is quite an interesting one for her, because she tends to go on date number one and that's it, because she's not attracting, well, she says here she's attracting the wrong kind of people. And it's really interesting. And so, yeah, I'm attracting the wrong kind of people. What can I do so that I'm attracting the right kind of person? Wendy, that's a great question. If you're attracting the wrong kind of people, I mean, this goes back to, obviously you're using your sensory acuity and you're paying attention to the fact that for whatever reason, when you're, you've got your online profile and you're dating, people that you're meeting up with aren't for you. So there's some things that you could do. First of all is to go back to your, if you haven't already done so, create a list of qualities that you're looking for in a relationship and a partner, and be really, really clear about that. Get really specific. I've got a free mini ebook on love that is going out this week. So make sure you grab a copy of that by getting into the Life Design Mastermind, or send me a message on Facebook or an email to lara@designyourfabulousfuture.com. I'll make sure you get one. But part of it is getting real clarity about what you want in a relationship in the first place. It's like anything in life and business, you need clarity first. And it's almost like you're setting a goal around it. But it's more than that, because you're looking at your, how do you want to feel emotionally in a relationship, and really embedding and engaging all those wonderful feelings with having a partner, having a life partner. So the first thing is to get clear. The second thing is that I would take a look at your dating profile, and if you feel comfortable, get a friend to have a look at it, maybe a family member, someone who knows that you are engaging in internet dating. Again, there are probably some great resources out there on the internet. If you Google how to write a great dating profile, then yeah, perhaps share it in the Life Design Mastermind. If you find something great, have a look at how you're expressing yourself and your desires for a partner on your profile. May be delivering perhaps what you don't want rather than what you do. And I would make some tweaks and changes. So do some continuous improvement. Notice what works, notice what changes as a result of that. And if you're communicating with them via email or text, again, just review, is this the sort of conversation that, I want to attract into my life? Is this the sort of person? So definitely some things to do there, just to have a look at as a starting point. And please, Wendy, let us know how you go over on the Life Design Mastermind if you feel comfortable doing that. But in the meantime, all the very best of luck and success with finding a wonderful life partner. Okay, so we're back to top of the hour again. So that concludes the webinar for today. I thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being here. I know everyone's very, very busy. And I know that by implementing the tips that I have outlined for you, you will have guaranteed success. So I'd really like to hear how you go. I'd love you to pop a comment on the Facebook page. Email me, lara@designyourfabulousfuture.com. Or if you are watching this as part of a replay, please pop a comment down on the YouTube page. I'm Lara Young, and it's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you. Bye.